Alright, y'all, we're gonna see how this don't normally do videos like this. Normally just do racing and stuff, but a buddy of mine brought this '07 classic Silverado to us yesterday, and it's kind of got a weird scent in them that I ain't never really seen with lifters, but that's kind of what we're thinking it is. But yesterday, whenever he brung it and cranked it up, you know, cold, drop it off, get it off the trailer, it was the motor was quiet, and it's got like 200,000 miles on it, 5.3, but it was quiet. Okay, hold on a minute. The motor was quiet when it was cold, and it sat there and ran. He's like, man, normally this thing's ticking by now, but about 10-15 minutes after it got way up to temp and heat soaking a little bit, it started ticking and got pretty loud, and then it just kind of died off and stopped, then started back doing it a little bit later. So I don't know, we're going to try and tear into it and see what's going on. But all right, so this is cold start, so we can see what it does. And like I said, whenever you dropped it off yesterday, this thing won't make any noise whenever it was cold. It'd be nice if it go on and do it right here when we crank it up, so we can check it out and hear it good.
Dude, I'm not getting that car.
Yeah, we're gonna fix it. Yeah, 210,000.
Why are you cranking?
It's got pretty good oil pressure, so I told him I think we're just going to yank the heads off of it. See this one? This thing's quiet. We'll let it get warmed up and see if it'll start making a noise. This thing's still sitting here running and hadn't got no abnormal noise yet, but I'm gonna run it down the road. That's what he had to do yesterday to try and get it to duplicate the ticking, knocking sound it was making. This thing's got good oil pressure. I told him I wouldn't worry with trying to tear down the front. But he buys and sells a lot, so you know, just kind of get it back going, but he don't want to make it no weird noise, you know. Wants it right, so hopefully it's just a lifter. We can throw a set of lifters and some new head gaskets back on it and get back rolling. Alright, finally got it. 10 minutes later, we finally got the sound to start coming. Laying underneath it on the driver's side, and it definitely sounds like it's coming from like the back, one of the back cylinders on the driver's side. Alright, so I'm gonna tear into this driver's side first. This is which side it sounds like the noise is coming from. I'm just gonna pop the valve cover off. Make sure I ain't got no loose rocker bolt or loose rock arm, you know, or a bent push rod, or just something weird. But it is weird that the sound's coming and going. So I don't know, just checking it out. Alright, so on the driver's side, I really didn't find nothing. I ended up taking the manifold loose, which both of the back bolts, this bolt and this bolt, was broke off, and that one broke off with me, so they won't but 3 holding it in. Them 2 are gone, but you can see that's kind of suited up. All right, y'all, making a little headway on this thing. I'm about to pull the intake, drain the antifreeze, and then pop the heads off. Got the driver's side head off. About to pull the passenger side off. So far, all the lifters look good. Can't really tell nothing about that. The auto rollers is fine. But about to yank this passenger side off. I'm a little cheap Amazon cordless ratchet. It cracked out on me. Got this off Amazon. I think it was like 80 bucks. But I've had this thing about a year. It works pretty good. It ain't no high dollar one, but we ain't no high dollar operation neither. So what y'all used to put under a vehicle? Cause man, I made a mess. Antifreeze went everywhere. Y'all got anything special you put under a vehicle to catch everything? I need like some big small Tupperware things to throw under there to catch everything. So as I'm taking these lifters out and looking at the rollers, I'm also looking down. I can get it to focus. I'm looking down the journals, you know, like right there at the actual cam lobe to make sure it ain't messed up either. But most of the time these lifters, they just get where they quit pumping up and they'll start clacking. Most of the time if you catch it, which like on the G8 that I'm gonna show y'all in the G8 video, it actually, the lifter actually messed up and just stuck. So it wiped the cam out. But most of the time whenever they just go to ticking real loud, it's just where they're not pumping up with oil and starting to make noise. Got this thing going back together, starting by putting the lifters in the trays. And the way these trays are slotted and the lifters are slotted, they can't go but one way. And on this block, it don't even have the Boss Bud Gen 4 blocks, whichever one I've seen's got the, where you can't put these in backwards. But on these blocks, and you see the little notch right here, it just goes around that top bolt. But with these lifters, so we just putting in customer supplied parts. I think he said this kit, he bought this kit in like 19, so it's been sitting for years, but they was Elgin. I guess just Elgin drop-in lifters. But that's what we're using. Just some stuff he had laying around, just trying to get the truck back going. We went and got us some multi-layer steel exhaust gaskets, some Fail Pro head gaskets, some Fail Pro exhaust bolts. These all he brought me a whole gasket kit, but we'll get it going back together. I'm gonna get these lifters in and then start putting the heads on and doing the torque sequence on them. You see the flat spot on the lifter, that's what I was talking about. They can't go in wrong. And then obviously the roller's gonna be down. The roller ain't gonna be riding on the cam like that. So it's always easier to me to just put them in the trays and then stick them down in there instead of trying to line everything up while it's in there, while they're down in the lifter bore. See if I can do this with one hand. Trying to do everything one-handed. And they'll kind of get in the boards and then you can just wiggle it down. Good to go. Put you a little bolt in here, and if you're one of them guys that's everything's got to be torqued to spec, that is 22 foot-pounds, I believe, maybe. Or, I don't know, don't quote me on that. I just do good and tight. Little 10mm bolt. And just snug it up, call it good. We took a scraper and some Scotch-Brite and cleaned up our block surface and our head surface as good as we could before we put our head gasket down. Alright, we got all our lifters in. Make sure you got your head dowel pins in. Then we're gonna lay a head gasket on here and lay a head on. You'll see these Felpro gaskets are labeled front, and then it's pretty. Make sure ain't none of your water jackets or bolt hoses all lined up. Make sure you got the right gasket. Once you get all your 15mm bolts in, there's a sequence pretty much start in the middle and work your way out, you know, to the front and then to the back of the head. 22 foot-pounds. Which we got a digital Craftsman one. Gave it that 0.2 for a little extra sauce. But just torque them. And then you go back. So after we get all our 15mm head bolts torqued to 22 foot-pounds, our first pass in sequence is going to be 90 degrees. And then second pass on all of them is going to be 70 degrees. And then we'll torque our little 10mm bolt heads to 22 foot-pounds, and we'll be done, and we'll go to the other side. Whenever you're doing it with this, make sure you know you got it down on there square. I'm gonna try and hold it square and show y'all. See, this thing will start reading degrees, and then you can come back and get you another bite on it and go back to it. Which I know this is upside down, but so we're at 60. 90. And our first pass is done. So now we're gonna go back and do 70 degrees on all of them. This cam kit the guy brought me with those Elgin lifters also came with some Elgin just stock replacement push rods. But I've got my oil that my lifters was soaking in. I'm just putting the end down in it. That way ain't nothing dry metal on metal. Put it down in your slot. And always push it down to make sure it's pushed down on the lifter tight. That way whenever you get ready to put your rockers on, everything's good to go. We got the head on the driver's side, rocker arm, push rods in the rocker arms, everything torqued down, got the valve cover on, new gaskets on the valve cover. I'm gonna wait, but you can't see it down in there real good. I'm gonna wait and put the exhaust manifold on this side because I figured I was about to start to try and go on and bolt that side up and finish that side. But I think whenever you move these, the Y pipe moves on both sides, so I'm gonna leave them loose and then do them last. So on all these valve trains, like on top of your valves and your springs right there, your retainers, and then on top of your push rods right there, I just like to, this is what I had the lifter soaking in, just some oil or assembly lube or whatever, but I always dump my finger in there and then just rub it to make sure ain't nothing dry whenever you put it all together on first startup. Got the head on this side. It was kind of a pain in the tail to get the exhaust bolts lined up. I ended up putting a jack under the Y pipe and just jacking it up some to be able to get the factory exhaust manifold up. Got new Felpro bolts and new multi-layer steel gaskets. I'd recommend using them, the steel ones that you can see. Oh, let me see. You can see the steel one like right there versus the cork one. They work a lot better than the cork. They won't leak. And dipstick, it went in pretty easy. Putting spark plug wires on. I'm gonna go to this side. Get the driver's side exhaust manifold on. We'll be good to go. Be able to put the intake on there. We got all the exhaust manifolds on. Just set the intake on. The NOx sensor Oh, son of a thing. Gonna hit my head on the... Damn. God dog. The knock sensor harness plugs up. There's another plug at the back. Plug that goes up here. There's a couple plugs all over the intake. Then I'm gonna set the fuel rail. Set the fuel rail down on it. Start buttoning it up. I do gotta put the got the alternator bracket and power steering bracket. I gotta put it back on. And then put the belt, serpentine belt back on. And radiator hose back on where I drained it, the bottom radiator hose down there that I took off, and put some coolant in it. So I got the intake back on, the alternator bracket, my auto plug wires, coil packs, heater hose bracket, cold air intake, all that. We put coolant in it, done a fresh oil change on it. About to crank it up, see how these new lifters sound. Normally they do chatter for a minute until they pump up on any new stuff whenever you do it. So don't let that scare you. Drop some oil on me, dog. See, I mean, just cranked it up. We're still getting lifter noise. What I do, take a little bit of pump up. Which these are Elgin lifters that the customer supplies. I've never used them before, so we'll see. Gonna get it up to 10, get the coolant right, and then see how it sounds. Heating this thing up so we can get all the air out the coolant. These lifters aren't the quietest thing, but whenever you put the hood down, you really can't hear them. But with the hood up, you can definitely hear them making a little noise. But I think he said the date on them Elgin lifters was 2019, so they've been setting a couple years. But just letting it get up to 10. They've been setting a couple years, and they had like the old thick packing lube in them. Some people say you don't get all that out, and that's why we let them soak for a little while. So I don't know, different strokes, different folks. But you got the hood up, you can definitely hear them a little bit. I don't know, I've had Morels and the GM Performance, and to me and my G8, the GM Performance ones were a little quieter after you got preload right and everything. Which I don't know, I could look up these Elgins and see what the preload's supposed to be if they're, you know, about like factory LS7 or not. Alright, took this thing down the road, got it up to 10, got the coolant topped off, checked over everything, no leaks. Been running about 20-30 minutes now. We're here to be picked up. So we just pulled the heads and put lifters in this thing. To have 200,000 miles, it holds good oil pressure. I mean, it's been 210 for probably 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes or better. The truck's been running probably close to 30. And it's still got 40 pounds of oil pressure with a 1030 in it, 10W30. Pretty clean old truck. And that's a wrap. Appreciate y'all watching. Let me know if y'all like these videos of me working on LS stuff, or if y'all just want me to keep doing just the race car stuff. Appreciate y'all watching the channel.